Hi, I'm Lloyd Keys. Nice to meet you, and I'm going to be taking you through the journey of the Ariba modules. The first one is spend visibility. In this unit, we will discuss spend analytics and how enrichment can help your procurement. But before we start, I would like to show you a little film I made just to go over the entire process. Whoa! I guess I've just been procured. So let's talk about procurement. Procurement is at the center of every business. It takes care of obtaining what the business needs for its operations. I'm going to show you how Ariba goes one step further by merging all the functions of procurement into one single tool that even includes finance and the suppliers. So let's start this journey with a concrete example. Peter, our security officer, will be needing first aid kits. Now, this is only one example of many MRO, goods, services that are covered by procurement. Let's go quickly over the process. We'll come back with a demo. So Peter goes into the internal catalog and makes a requisition with first aid kits. This then needs to be approved by his boss, and then it becomes a purchase order. For the sake of simplicity, when you see blue, it's related to the buying process. When it's going to be orange, it's the pay or the supplier interaction. And later, when we're going to look at green, it will be the planning phase. So the supplier receives the purchase orders, confirms it, and sends a delivery notification, for example. At that point, Peter receives the good into the system so that when the supplier sends an invoice, it can be matched with the purchase order and with the receipt for good compliance, and it's ready to be paid. Now, this was part 2 of the procurement process. It was the operational part. Now, where do you think this first aid kit came from in the first place? Well, it came from a contract. And this contract was negotiated with many suppliers that were pre-qualified, registered, and some of them were even discovered in emerging markets, for example. And all of this is based on the procurement planning that you did in the beginning of the year, based on your spend analytics. So you see now in green how the planning phase gets then executed during the buying process all the way up to the supplier that sends an invoice. So what gets paid is what was negotiated, and what gets planned gets executed. And this is how Ariba merges the planning, buying, and execution or paying phase of the process all under one tool, under one login, both for the supplier and for the buyers. They say that knowledge is power. Power to change things, power to understand, power to decide on what should be done. In context of procurement, understanding your spend profile and purchasing behavior is key to improvements. This being said, every company has one form or another of reporting about their spend. Sometimes it comes from purchase orders recorded in a data warehouse. Sometimes it comes from Excel spreadsheets. But most of the time, the data that is used for reporting is financial data. How much was spent in which financial ledger? This kind of report is good for margins and turnover, but it's not so adequate to help procurement do a better job. It's even worse when the data comes from invoices that were scanned. Often, you have limited line item information, which would give you clue about what kind of spend this is. Was it services? Was it office supply? Was it from a contract? If there was no purchase orders, who ordered that? Did we pay the good price? All those questions are very difficult to answer when the data sitting in the ERP is used in its raw form to provide intelligence. It's rather limited. In this module, we will explore how the spend visibility solution of Ariba deliver what I call actionable reporting. In other words, with the help of the enrichment, classifications, supplier rationalizations, and other mechanisms to enrich and revisit the data, we will deliver spend analytics that are suitable for procurement. Let's look at the situation. The fundamental problem to be addressed here is the fact that raw data is very difficult to use as such. There might be various sources of data. I know a client that has more than 120 ERP systems worldwide. Imagine the complexity of trying to align all this data into a single model. And we're not even talking about languages. The data itself is often poor and badly classified. Some companies might have something like 25 GL accounts for which they classify the spend. This is the limit of their reporting. You can only know what has been spent in those 25 categories. This means that you can only produce a very high-level reports that give you hints of what the data might be. To make an analogy, if you receive a very small image on your smartphone and try to zoom it, it's never clear. It's never as sharp as if a high-resolution image was delivered. You might have an idea of what the details are, but it's your imagination that are filling the gaps rather than proper knowledge. There is limited decision you can make to improve your procurement. You can acknowledge that the spend that is processed in procurement is there. You can provide general guideline of what you think should be improved, but it's very difficult to obtain a good, healthy pipeline of sourcing goals for the next year, for example. I remember some years ago, I was visiting a state bank and I was doing some spend analytics for them. I discovered an anomaly in the spend of about 8 million euros, or $8 million if you prefer. I failed to notice the face of the chief procurement officer in the room. I went on telling them how interesting this is, and this came from a category that was called artwork. At that point, my spend analysis had uncovered something that the procurement boss didn't know. I tiptoed out of the conversation. But the fact remains, this data was not hidden. It had been there all the time in the first place. But since they could not report on granular level, it was washed in a bigger spend bucket and nobody noticed about it. So what does Ariba do about this? Well, first we ask our clients to send us all their data in their raw forms in any source that they have. We then use a mix of technology and human reviews to cleanse and enrich this data. This is done by a team of professionals in Ariba because we believe that technology is not sufficient to really enrich the data. Then we can add benchmark data to help the client run reports, understand their spend, have a sourcing pipeline, know which suppliers are duplicates, or which ones should have e-catalogs, or even calculate how much costs are caused in accounts payable because of paper invoices. Let's summarize how this works. First, the data from any system of any ERP is extracted. Our teams can help the client extract the data at regular intervals and then align the format in a usable way. The end goal is to create one language for reporting across all the different types of data. Then our team performs several actions. We classify the spend according to the international standard called UNSPSC. We also provide a more procurement-friendly taxonomy. Example, at the lower level, an LCD screen would be part of display, which would be part of IT hardware, which would be in the IT technology category. The results are presented in our HANA-powered analytics interface online, and there you can use the prepackaged reports provided or create any report on your own to drive your procurement. Finally, the decisions you will make will get implemented, and with the help of the same analytics, you can come back 1 year later to see what was planned, what was implemented, and what was not. if it got delivered. Let's look at the demo. We're going to look here at spend visibility. We're going to have a little demo here of the system. First, when you log in, you have a dashboard. This is your landing page. It's fully customizable. You can put everything you need in there per user. Let's zoom in here. You see on the left, this was the data before we did anything from the ERP. 93% is completely blind to you, no idea about those categories. And on the right here, we have the information about the classification once our team did the work. If we drill down into the report, now we see the data itself. This is how the pie chart was made. And this is a spend cube. You can basically move, select, drill down to search and find opportunities or behavior that you want to analyze. If I need to add more information, I can take, for example, here I'm hiding some categories to better refine, or I can drag and drop the supplier information here to add this new set of data inside the system. And this helps me find out everything I need to know. Who are my top suppliers? With whom do I need to do better contracts and things like this? All my categories are there. I can derive my planning based on this. The system will let you create pie charts in different visual formats that you can publish back into your own dashboard. You can share, you can export to Excel. There is everything you need in there to use the reporting. So let's look at different types of reports you can have. We're going to go here to organization. I see the spend based on who ordered, which categories, which place in my company, which employee has ordered. I can also see some specific categories that I want to zoom, or even forecast savings. I want to achieve 20% savings in this category this year. Has it happened? Has it not been done? Where is my status right now? Then we have opportunity analysis. Here, we use a benchmark from Ariba. Ariba has calculated a lot of savings based on spend that was done through its system. And we say, well, in this category, you typically do 27% savings in sourcing. This, with your spend, would have the equivalent of this amount. It's a nice way to have a pipeline of what to do. Other things here, fragmentation. 250 suppliers in 100 cost center. This is all little suppliers spread out around all the different places of your organization. That's difficult to control. That's another opportunity. Try to regroup this. Now let's look at other kind of information. We've brought benchmark into the story. Consumer price index, movement, different kind of Dun & Bradstreet, for example, and benchmark that are here. And it lets me see what's the difference between the market and what I pay. What's the difference between my behavior and my peers. And that helps to see if you're doing well or if you could do a little bit better. Now we're into another area where we see the suppliers themselves, and this was also heavily enriched. You see the supplier before and after. Before, you see the list is different. It's not the same order. It's basically who you thought your suppliers were. They're not necessarily that in reality. And the spend that is done in different one of those buckets, this one is pretty much the same. Kelly Services, it has not changed. But if we look at IBM, 109 million, and 111 million. There were 2 millions that were hidden somewhere that we didn't know about. It came when we rationalized the suppliers. So if we look into this supplier rationalization, you have an example here. Imical was 4 different suppliers in your system, and we summoned it back into one family, the parent company, which is Imical, who also includes Sun Microsolids, for example. And so to help you drive this information, we will provide a lot of prepackaged report. We will deliver it as a standard mini report in different topics that will help you explore, understand, and take decisions about your spend. Here, different example of supplier reports that can help you understand that landscape, or commodity analysis, just another example here. What can you do to better understand, have a good visibility about how to track your spend? Ultimately, this is to drive better compliance.